What's going on, everybody? It's Childish back out of the game, coming at you with another Summoners War video. And in today's video, we're going to be bringing you guys something special. I want to go ahead and interview the Grandmaster, the rank 1 RTA player on the West server today. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to none other than DJBIZZLE. Bizzle's in the house. How you doing, boss?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here, my man. For those of you guys that are watching here on YouTube, I've been blessed with the opportunity to know this young man for a long time here. But when it comes to Summoners War Chronicles, and being super supportive, but not only my videos, my content, but just overall, supporting me on his channel, on his Discord, sharing my videos about it. He's been nothing short of amazing. So I really do appreciate you doing that for me. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to give us a little content for the community.
Happy to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, very excited. So again, this is one of the things that we talked about, guys. When it comes to content and Summoners War Chronicles, there's really not a whole lot of content in the PvP, arena, so to speak here. So we're looking to bring you on board to just kind of get like some overall tips, tricks, a little basic strategy from you as the #1 player in the world on the West server. But yeah, we want to get a little insight on you and try to figure out what we can do to be better if we're looking to jump into this world of PvP. So I think the first thing we got to do, and this is kind of what I've done with all my previous interviews and, like the Educate and Dominate series on the Skyrim side, is just let's get a little background for you, man. I know you obviously played with me Skyrim, but like give me the background story, how you jumped into the Summoners War family, what made you like give a chance to Summoners War Chronicles, and what made you say, you know what, I'm just gonna jump into and see if I could be like a #1 rank RTA player.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I definitely started playing the Sky Arena in 2015. I did quit Sky Arena last year. I was very competitive in Sky Arena. I definitely been in the top 100 for RTA for multiple seasons. Unfortunately, I said goodbye to Sky Arena, and this game came along back in, I think it was October or September of last year, 2022.
Right.
And a bunch of my friends from Sky Arena were playing, and they said, "Hey, you should play this game." So I was like, I don't know, I don't know if I want to get back into it again. I'm playing other games, and I just decided to download it just to have fun.
Just
Didn't
get a
think
little,
I'd
just
get
get a little
any
taste, see
serious.
what happens.
Yeah. Didn't think I'd get serious, and
Right.
little did I know, it turned out to be a really good game.
Right.
And the community was really strong. I had a bunch of my friends in the same server. We hung out every single day.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed ourselves, and we started to do brawl. And given my competitive nature, and a few LD5s.
Just a few, yeah, just a few.
Just a few.
As you showcase right here, you're flexing over here, all light LD5s with
Yeah. So everybody is super competitive in my guild, and eventually I ended up taking rank 1 multiple seasons. That's where we are today.
Yeah. Right on. Sounds good. So, one of the things that I want to jump into when it comes to PvP is obviously this is quite a ways different from Skyrim, a completely different game. And, we're not only focused on the units that we're bringing to the table, but also our summoner here. So obviously you are an Orbia player. One of the things that you wanted to showcase, or I wanted you to showcase, was kind of your, gear and stats kind of coming into PvP. So, obviously everyone has their own thresholds or milestones as to what they hit. But, as far as a ranked 1 player on our server, this is basically a pretty good idea. This is like a typical Orbia at your level. Would you say so?
Yeah, I would say, there's definitely a lot better Orbias in this ranking in where I'm sitting, but this is pretty standard, I think, average
Mm-hmm.
in terms of Orbia builds. Yeah, did you want me to kind of go over just the overall?
Yeah. So I guess the kind of one of the things to kind of point out here is that obviously as an Orbia player, people are kind of know the typical builds and whatnot. Obviously, we're looking for attack, critical rate, critical damage. We want to be accurate, whatnot here. But you're a little bit different. You obviously are going crit damage. You have an absurd amount of crit damage, which I think it'd be kind of cool to kind of showcase some of the gear that you have that allows you to do that and how you're able to do that. And then also you're a little bit high in the position where I think some people wouldn't be. So curious to hear your thoughts on that and why that's been so beneficial to you.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna start with just gear set first of all.
Okay.
Given the current meta, I think overall a lot of players are going for units versus summoners. it's I would say 90% of my matches are they're targeting my units versus my summoner, and that is why I have the Marsh set, which is minus 11% taken and battlefields. This is kind of the reasoning why I have the Marsh gear versus the other set.
Very nice.
I do have the Foggy Marble, the Death Soul Marble. This is minus 4.5% take into the summoner. That does help in that aspect. And I'll kind of just click through all my gear. I kind of just explain, kind of the reasoning. So there are a few dead stats in here. Precision isn't really the greatest stat.
Right.
A lot of the targeting is sort of like the crit rate, crit damage, HP, defense. Accuracy also helps. Again, precision dead stats. And I guess in terms of the awakenings, ideally you want to for your offhand, in this case the marble, you definitely want to second awaken this because of the HP, the flat HP that you gain. I'm just gonna go into reference, so it's 24,660, and if you go to a offhand that's not second awaken here, that's 3,500 HP
Right.
that you're
pretty good
missing
HP.
out on. Yeah, so that's a pretty big jump, right?
Right.
Same with the earrings. I don't believe I have a 6-star non-awakened, but that's a lot of base stats. And in terms of Orbia, defense is pretty important, and because the base is so low, the percentage doesn't scale as high. So you want the flat stat there. So these are like the two most important things you want to awaken. And then we can kind of just go over the weapon. This isn't the greatest staff. It's not too awakened, but rarely do I find myself using fire in Brawl. Well, I would say in terms of all the staffs that I use, it's probably the wind, the light, and occasionally the dark if it's not banned.
Okay.
So the priority for me is really the light and the wind, and as you can see, these two. You can tell that I put a lot of work in terms of refining because these stats are pretty decent.
Right. And just take a look at them all day. I mean, one of the things we're seeing as well is kind of the consensus of as far as the overall gems of what I'm using. You're focusing on the stats are going to provide quite a bit more combat power because it's monster, right? Monster crit damage, monster defense percentage. You're looking at accuracy here. Obviously, I think the defensive percentage, attack, HP, that you're going to get a little bit more value out of that combat power wise. But at the end of the day, is it just getting the best gems you have, I guess you could say, or are you specifically focusing on like, oh, I need a little bit more critical rate, so I'm going to get a monster one, or so on and so forth? What was that take on that?
Yeah, so I think in terms, I'll go down the color of gems. So in terms of the red gems, you definitely want to target crit rate and crit damage.
Okay.
For the blue gems, you want to do obviously HP and defense. Obviously the highest rolls that you can get.
Okay.
And for the green one, it's pretty much just accuracy.
Okay.
Resistance is debatable, but the other substats is, I think it's attack speed and precision. Those are dead stats in my opinion. So you really want the accuracy. That's the best stat for the green gem.
Very nice, very nice.
And you want to put your best gems on your marble or your offhand because this is static. It doesn't change whereas your weapon, it can change depending on what weapon you have equipped.
That's actually a phenomenal tip right there, because I mean, ultimately all these bonuses that you give, it'll vary depending on what you switch here. So yeah, that's definitely super important, and I'm glad you mentioned that here. One thing I want to ask is, after taking a look at the Orbia here, you made a comment about, I guess we'll kind of jump into that a little bit when it comes to overall strat here, but can you tell us, I mean, obviously you showcase your full, like the full light team you use. What are your top 3 units that you generally use? I know everyone's going to be a little specific depending on what somebody you're going on, and you obviously know your opponents that you go up against, but what are some of the main units you use, the 3 main units you use, and why you like those?
Yeah, of course. So obviously Galleon is probably the most contested pick in Brawl, especially for Orbia.
Okay.
I think that's one of the top picks, but since I am usually rank 1 and usually early on, I never get the first pick in terms of the Brawl drafting. So I typically default to Ariel. next, which is, I know you had another video
Hmm.
of Aerial, and this is probably the best healer that's not L&D in the game. So
Hmm.
this is also a default pick, and then it lets you be versatile because you can pivot between a full sustain team or a team with, we like to call gas, where you're picking, say, like Tessa or Ethna, something like that.
Hmm.
So Galleon, Aerial, and for me personally, Ikasha is the next. Oh, this is probably my number one most picked unit in terms of Brawl.
Yeah.
Not everybody has this unit, so if I didn't have this unit, I would probably default to Juno.
Okay.
So it would probably be Galleon, Aerial, and Juno that are non-LD5.
All right. So real quick here, and we don't have to get too like specific when it comes to Akasha. What I know a lot of people out there, may have heard the name from Sky Arena, but obviously may have not been focused on it, given the fact that it's an LD5 in this game here. What's the big thing about her? Like, what makes her super unique? That's just like, oh man, she's a god tier kind of unit for RTA.
See this 3 mana cost skill?
Oh my god,
It's
that's
a
ridiculous.
it's
That's
an
actually ridiculous.
invincibility, and it's pretty much a full heal and also, and so this is the biggest thing, is this 3 costs, and then the next is the strip. You
Right,
remove all beneficial effects.
right. And
Level 1 damage knockup.
would I be wrong to say that this is generally going to be the unit you're going to have in your Soul Link?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
for
is
sure.
100% accurate. Yep.
Gotcha. So yeah, moving on here, let's go ahead and talk about like the kind of the basic strats here. One of the things that I love to do when it comes to these videos here is not just kind of showcase the end game kind of setup and whatnot here, but just overall provide some tips, tricks, or whatnot for the people that are coming up in the game that are looking to jump into this RTA after seeing how ridiculously strong your account is. Let's talk about the overall strategy here, just some basic strats. As an Orbia player, attacking an Orbia here, what are some of the things you focus on when it comes to maybe the teams that you pick or the units that you focus on in match here? Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, of course. So I think when you're as an Orbia player, you first need to decide what type of Orbia player do you want. Do you want to be an Orbia player that goes really aggressive and decides to go straight for a summoner? Or do you want to be more of a full sustain Orbia? You know, so what I mean by that is, say I really love Tessa. I think people need to build teams around a unit or play style that they want to play. So if I'm gonna play Tessa, then I want to play Tessa, then I want to build teams around Tessa, such as, like, something to support and sustain Tessa. In this case, it would be an Aerial. In my case, it's an Ikasha to help keep this Tessa alive, or maybe an Ethna. Or I can run these both and just pick Tessa, Ethna, maybe another damage dealer like Narnha or something like that, and with the Galleon. Or I can go the other route where I go full sustain, where I just decide to outlast my opponent. Where it's an end game or a long game type of match. So
Hmm.
that would be where Aerial comes in.
Sure, sure.
Or I can pick a Kumar. Kumar is another sustain unit, or a Juno. It has a strip and a cleanse, and it provides a lot of utility. Or in my case, I have these two up here, the Lima and the Akasha. So I think based off my LDs, if you have an LD, I think if it's a really good one, you should build a team around that. So in my case, I have Akasha Lima. So I typically run the Akasha Lima Aerial team where I'm full sustain and outlast my opponent.
Okay.
I look for openings and I pick off units.
Sure.
Just kind of figure out a game plan beforehand will make you a very good player. What
Yeah.
makes you an even better player is being able to pivot mid draft. If
Oh,
someone is going full YOLO into you, you need to be able to pivot to outlast that full blast team.
gotcha. So again, one cool thing you kind of pointed out here is that not all Orbeos are just straight glass cannons, right? Trying to go all
Yeah,
in on it. Some people actually build theirs in a tankier based fashion because ultimately people believe that Orbeos are super squishy, and so they generally like to target them first. So that's kind of a unique kind of twist to the strategy here. Now, given the fact that Orbia is one of those units that you probably have the most experience going up against. Obviously, Cleef was outrageously OP back in the day. It still is, obviously, but there's been a couple of updates since that time, and so now Kina and Orbi are definitely moving up the ladder ranks here now. If is Cleef, would you say Cleef is one of your harder ones to go for when you're going up against it? And if so, tell us a little bit about it. What's so difficult about like versus Cleefs?
So I think Cleef right now, why I think it's a little bit more balanced in terms of Orbia versus Cleef. Um, Specifically the water weapon on the Cleef. So I with this new update, there's something I think it's called Frost Shield.
Yep.
So I think it's every time you hit them, there's a percentage chance to freeze, and they put a ton of debuffs on you.
Yeah.
I think that probably needs a slight tune down. So I a lot of times I will ban the water weapon because I could be hitting units trying to kill units and they can just they just run in there and I get frozen and I'm just perma frozen for about 10 seconds, which is a little crazy. And especially if they have assassin teams where I can't move, not being able to move while these assassins come down on me is pretty rough. Um, so I would say Cleaves. I personally don't struggle, but I know they are having an easier time with this new update against other Orbias. I think it's a little bit more balanced, and their damage they do hit hard. These Cleese, they're 300 crit damage Cleese. They're doing not as much damage as Orbia, but pretty close.
That's crazy to think that
Yep.
they can compete.
Especially with 6-star runes too. These damage dealers can do a lot of damage. I mean, you can look at my Ethno, like look how tanky this thing is, and it does a lot of damage.
Right. So, Cleef viewers, are they generally like going all in support, and then you just gonna figure out one that you can target to take down, or are they trying to bring it a little bit? Are they generally a little heavier on the DPS? What's your general
Yeah,
typical Cleef team you
yeah,
see?
of course. So I think generally the Cleefs are picking a mix of support with damage. I don't really see full support Cleefs because Orbio will out DPS a Cleef if that's the case.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit of mix of both with Ethna, Tessa, with some sort of healer or CC unit like Kumar. And there's a lot of LD user Cleefs out
Right.
there. So it's a little bit of mix of both. I wouldn't say full support. Those it doesn't really work out too well.
Gotcha. So, given the fact that Cleef does have its ability to provide endure and stay alive a little bit longer, do you generally focus on their kill threats and whatnot in their specific team and whatnot? If you are going with the aggressive route,
If I'm going the aggressive route, then I will go straight for the Cleef with a
oh,
Tessarion.
okay,
If it's let through because it does Oblivion,
right, right,
so there is no endure. But typically, most of my Cleef matches is I'm killing units,
right,
out sustaining the Cleefs.
right. And before we get into the Kina strat here, would that be like a just kind of a general consensus when it comes to strategy, like a when in doubt, try to go for the summoner, given the fact that they do have control over the units. If you take them out, then essentially it's almost like an auto match per se, or is it still dependent on kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah, it really depends what the draft is. I wouldn't really target. It's not as I would say it's not a good strat to always target summoners, especially if you're like a light Orbia, for example, because of the skill 2. It's a straight line. It's easy for them to dodge, so it's not always easy, especially because it can run away.
Okay.
It's not easy.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So let me ask you this here. When I first jumped into the game, Kina didn't get a lot of love, but since a couple of the updates here, people were saying that Kina's kind of been a pain in the butt to tend to take down here. How have you been doing versus the Kinas up in the high ranks here? And what's your general strategy going into those matches?
Yeah, so against Kinas, I think the meta has shifted towards destroy Kinas.
Okay.
That's one of the shots they're using. Obviously, with better runes, they're able to do tankier DPS teams. So they typically run DPS teams. They do archers, assassins. They tend to go quote unquote full YOLO. So it is more of a defensive strat. Stay alive and be able to kill their units. So that's pretty much the strat: is stay alive and kill their units. So things like Fire Panda, which has a provoke
Yep.
to
Loved
keep
it.
you alive, because Kinas will typically target the summoners
Sure. Yep.
because they have assassins and archers. They'll target the summoner. So having something like a provoke to take the heat off of you, or sustain unit like Ariel or Kumar, things like that. Even Teor. Teor is good.
Yeah.
That's typically the strat. Is just stay alive, kill the assassins or damage dealers as fast as possible. The destroy meta is pretty strong in the West servers. I would say in the first 20 seconds, my health is destroyed 50%,
That's
because
crazy.
I think it does need a slight tune down. It shouldn't be a case where in 20 seconds my HP is destroyed
Right.
50%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to see if they make some adjustments there, especially out after the number one player on the server is like, hey, I don't like it. They'll probably make the adjustment. They want to make you happy at the end of the day. That's all that matters.
Yeah, no, I
Right?
think the general consensus amongst the top players in the West server is that Destroy is a little too crazy. It needs to
Yeah.
be down slightly.
Yeah.
'Cause
No, I
that
agree. I agree 100%. Yeah. No. I think I saw a couple of clips there on a couple of different streamers here on Discord, and they were showing how quickly it was going down as well. I didn't believe it until I saw it. So I was like, oh wow, that's kind of sick. But yeah, let me ask you this though. Again, kind of chiming in for our beginner players out there. You as a streamer, been showcasing some of the RTA matches, and I'm sure you've had a lot of people come, talk to you and talk about basic strategy and whatnot. They may be talking strat and kind of sharing their stuff on this, and you're probably seeing a lot of common mistakes that people are making along. Do you have any of those mistakes that people are generally making, and what kind of advice have you given them to rectify it?
Yeah, I would think the biggest mistake that a lot of players do is not using the soul link properly.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
So let's see if I can find an example.
Yeah,
Maybe I should do a challenger arena.
there you go. There you go. Look at this, fam. We're getting some really good content right now here.
So what I mean by a soul link is, at the beginning of the match, you pretty much have a free skill that you can use. So I'm not gonna use any mana when I'm attacking, and I will use Galleon. Okay,
Right.
so I'm using the Galleon S2. Okay, I'm soul linking swap out. You saw how Galleon used this skill in the top right corner. He used
Yep.
his first skill. Some might call it second skill. So that's what I mean by using the free skill.
Right. Now you casted your ability before switching over, and then he casted his ability when he was off of Soul, correct?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So you basically get a free skill right off the bat.
Yep. Yep. I remember showcasing this a little bit on one of the videos that I did for Naraka. And it's good to see that it's still utilized to this day, especially in PvP. I mean, that makes sense. Getting a little bit more value out of your units here. It's so like when I first looked into this game and I was seeing this, like at the New York Comic Con, and it's like seeing the gameplay live. Like I really couldn't grasp my head around it. But then now, playing the game for about 6 months, I realize like how deep the rabbit hole goes when it comes to like overall strategy and all the cool, unique things you could do. So I tip my hats off to them. Obviously, there's always room for improvement there, but there's quite a lot of unique mechanics here that people don't generally pick up that are pretty cool as well. Now take a look at your monster box. You did mention a couple of units out there that are obviously not free to play. Some LD5, some non LD5s here. But out of the units that you've used, or maybe your guild or community error over there has used, is there any unit that you would say that is like generally underrated or overlooked, and if somebody were to have them, maybe they can consider them depending on their strategy?
It's a good question. I think
Like me personally, I hear people talk about Kumar, but I still don't really see a lot of it in the ranks that I play. So I don't know if that's really considered an underrated overlook. I mean, obviously it has a really unique kit that's kind of shines for PvP, but
anything with a low mana cost skill like this, 3 mana cost, it's a full cleanse and pretty much, depending on the stats of your Kumar, a massive heal. I think mine heals for about 55k. Anything with like a low mana cost skill is generally decent, especially in terms of support, like 3 mana cost here. In terms of underrated units, I would say that Tetra is really good. Another 2 mana it's a 2 mana cost skill. My Tetra isn't runed well. I'm still working on it. But it's a 2 mana cost skill, 30% of its max HP. So if I had 100,000 HP Tetra, that's 30,000 damage for 2 mana cost skill that I can soak up.
Yeah.
Stuff, right? I think this is a pretty underrated unit.
Now, one of the things that specific skill mentions, it says apply shield to allied target. Can we assume that it provides a shield for the unit with the lowest HP, or
yes, that is correct. That is correct.
That makes definitely a big difference for sure. But considering one thing to kind of go back and forth about this one, considering the fact that a lot of the units out there that people are incorporating are really, really heavy in the AoE, is single target healing ability still pretty good? Are they pretty meta, or is it you just kind of need units like Ariel that have like AoE cleanses and heals or whatnot, or units like this still shine?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the draft again. If they're bringing single target damage dealers, I'm just going to use Tesla for example. It's an archer, right? It's hitting like one unit. In that case, you probably want to lean more towards a single target healer. If you're bringing something like an Alicia, for example, where it's AoE, obviously you would want something like an area where it can heal the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it really depends on the situation, and that comes from generally experience.
Right.
Trying to figure out what's a good healer or not.
Right.
What situation.
Yep. I was gonna say, at the end of the day, I think what we're kind of getting at is that there's quite a variety of units you could do, but you definitely not you how do I say this? You have to know not just your monster box, but basically all the monsters out there that are essentially shine for PvP. Because if you don't understand what they're trying to do when they lay out their draft, you're gonna have a difficult time trying to counter and play against your strats here too. So that's kind of good part, because I didn't even think about the fact it's like, oh yeah, well it's a single target, but you're right. Some people that are probably like going super YOLO single target, like all in, try to take it out. So that like this would be perfect, because it's obviously really good HP and super low mana cost comparison to some other unit that might have double the mana cost for AoE that's not even going to get utilized as effectively, right? So that's a great thing to point out there. We talked about the runes a little bit earlier on. You made a comment about the destroy runes are a little overtuned, right? But would you say that's something that maybe some of the newer players may overlook now, given the fact that it is still a relatively new rune, obviously, but something that they could consider if they do have good runes in that set, or no?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think a lot of my guildies are leaning towards destroy on pretty much everything, including supports, because of the for support it would be a little bit more chip damage, but on big damage dealers it'll be massive destroy. So I think destroy runes right now, assuming that they don't nerf it, is really good for PvP, not PvE. Just to throw that out there, PvP destroy is really good, and if you have good sets, try and utilize them as best as possible.
Okay. And one thing to add as well, I know that I believe you, as well as a couple of the people in your community, have said on the error server here, is that don't underestimate the value of the rune sets that provide just raw stats. The energy rune, the guard runes, and whatnot. Here, I was actually surprised as to the amount of players that were still like grinding their way out for like just straight energy runes for their support classes. I thought people would just be focusing on whatever it is, despair or rage or whatever the case may be, because those are just like the ultimate sets here. But like you're showing right now, Hellish Blizzard, you're actually rocking an energy set on the side.
Yeah. Ideally I would want this on destroy, but it is a mage, so I am trying to lean more towards HP. I did want to point out something, dude. I don't think a lot of people realize this, but check this out. You see this flat HP?
Yes.
So in certain monsters, flat HP is much better than a percentage HP. Right. I know I'll break this set, but actually let me just put this on. So let's check out this HP here, 65. You see the big difference? I threw on an HP percent. Look at that. Oh, sorry, this is a defense percent.
Defense percent.
I'm sorry.
Jeez, epic fail. Epic fail
here. Okay, 65. versus 61, right?
Yeah,
Versus a flat.
yeah,
Pretty
that's pretty
crazy,
impressive.
right?
And I thought the value of energy runes like that were really only good for like the 2-star, 3-star units out there that had like a little bit lesser base stats, but it looks like it's still pretty valuable for Nat 5s as well, huh?
Yep. Yep.
That's an
Agree.
amazing tip to kind of provide out there because Lord knows we're starting to get a crazy amount of 6-star runes right now, and all of us are getting tilted and ready to combine them when we don't get the exact perfect rune that we're looking for. So definitely good to know. Definitely good to know here. Quick question for you. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier on when we were talking about like the overall strategy and whatnot here. Obviously, you have just so many units out there that are that you can kind of really mix in your strategy and whatnot here. But overall, general like pick and ban tips, anything you want to throw out there that you might have provided for your viewers or anybody on your
Yeah.
Discord to help them out.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big thing with the new draft system, so it is now 5 picks versus the 4, and you
Hmm.
ban. So a lot of strategy that I implement, is if I know they have a unit that they like to use, but I typically don't like to use. Let's say like the user is a big Tesla user, right?
Right.
If the opponent is a big Tesla user, sorry. If I know they're gonna pick it, I will pick it myself and I will self ban it just
Hmm.
to deny them the pick. That's a pretty big 5 hedge strategy.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
So that's one of the big tips I would say for in terms of drafting. You could also it's a lot of mind games because of the way that you pick them.
Right.
A lot of mind games like,
That's
oh, are
really
they
cool.
gonna self ban? Say like in my case, I have a Tion Lang, which its passive will counter an Ella Noah. Maybe they're I think, oh, they're gonna self ban Ella Noah, so I'm gonna self ban it. I'm gonna gamble a little bit and just ban it because maybe it doesn't fit well into my draft. So I'll
Right.
self ban it. So there's mind games like that in terms of drafting.
Right. That's good. That's good. I was gonna say, when it comes to strategy in Sky Arena, it was I mean there's definitely a little bit of that element here, but it seems like Chronicles there's a little bit more wiggle room for that craziness. So I don't know. I'm just, let's put it this way. I'm glad I'm not in your shoes, man. I would it seems like it could be overwhelming at the high ranks here. Um,
Yeah, and I think kind of visualizing the draft
yeah.
and how it's going to play out in the next the 10 seconds that or 20 seconds per se, visualizing how it's going to work out is also key. That's just like Sky Arena. I know Sky Arena is different, it's a turn-based game, but kind of visualizing 10 steps ahead how it's going to play out. That's probably the biggest tip, just visualizing, and that a lot of that comes from playing a lot, practicing, seeing the interaction, knowing what will target what. For example, an assassin will target a mage. And, I'm an Orbia, which is a mage. Knowing that an assassin will target you, chase you down, having that knowledge is good. An archer will just target whatever's nearby. Knight and a warrior will target melees such as assassins and
Mhm.
knights. So knowing those things is very very key.
Good deal. Good deal. Now, the fun question that we always got to ask everybody out there, because there's just so much room for improvement when it comes to a game that's still under a year. You've obviously seen a lot of things for the good, for the better, and you've seen a lot of changes from the Comptos side once we provide our opinion on it. So I want to kind of give you the floor and kind of share with with the community maybe some of the improvements that you would like to see moving forward to just like really polish off the RTA format and really make it something amazing.
So I think for Brawl specifically, the biggest improvement, I have the battle or the arena pass. I do think they need to get rid of the times 2 because it doesn't incentivize people to really brawl as much outside of the 5 2x that they receive, which in turn makes it so that people play less, especially if they're climbing. Um, I think for me, I sit in 30-minute queues because there isn't a lot of people playing. Because of this 2x, they'll just do their 5. They'll gain 100, 200 points, and then they'll stop. They won't continue to play. I think having 2x on the coins Specifically, the tokens for brawl tokens is
Yep.
fine, but the points I don't think should be there because it really does incentivize people to does make people just sit in really long queues, excessive queue.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think what's a typical queue for you right now when you're at the higher ranks here?
Yeah, so depending on the time slot, obviously, I would say average wait time could be somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes. It has gotten to points. It's pretty common for me to sit in 30-minute
Hmm.
queues.
That's crazy.
Um, it's unless I know my guildies are all queuing at once, I will not get a lot of games. And there is a 30-minute cooldown time on who you can match.
Right.
Um, so it does. I can sit in really long queues, and it's not fun. I don't have time to sit here all day and sit in queues.
Hmm.
You know. Oh, what's a big one? Putting a notification. At least like a sound when a queue pops.
Sure.
Because a lot of times I'll be doing something on the side because I'm not going to stare at my screen waiting for a queue to pop. Maybe like a ding or something notification that a brawl has popped.
Yeah. I was gonna say it would be kind of nice if they were to set it up and such too that, like, okay, you can get into queue and then just do other stuff in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like they
Yeah.
have
Oh,
done.
that's
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Great.
I mean, you can't go into the exchange center when you're in a queue, but you can do room management, summon, just auto farm somewhere. But
Right. Right. Very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, I think we kind of covered everything that I want to hit up at least for today. And again, for those of you guys that are watching on YouTube, definitely stay tuned as Bizzle and I we're going to be getting together and literally showing you the top end, what top end PvP looks like there in Brawl Arena, and give you an idea of kind of his thought process moving through his draft and his just going out against the opponents here. So it should be really fun to see. So if you guys, as always, you want to do me a favor, show your support. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course hit that notification bell so you guys know when the next video drop. DJBIZZLE, my man, thank you once again for coming on board and doing this collaboration with me. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. It's been amazing.
thank you. Appreciate it. Anytime.
All right, that's gonna be a fan. Thank you guys for watching. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you all in the next one.